My name's Tim Blevins. I'm with Regional History, Special Collections, which is Regional History and Genealogy in the 1905 Carnegie Library. You can't hear me? Are you sure you want me to do this? How's that? Is that better? Oh, okay. I call it a throwaway. When I introduce myself, you really don't have to hear my name. Regional History and Genealogy here in 1905 Carnegie Library. So if you get a chance sometime, if you haven't visited us, that's what's in this building. And we're here to help you do your family history and learn about your old house, things of that sort. We're going to switch hats here from writer to publisher. And as independent publishers, you're going to be in control of your product. We have a very short period of time in which we're going to try to cover a lot of material, about 40 minutes. And I'm going to talk really, really fast. So if you could keep your questions to the very end, we'll try to accommodate them then. And then during the break, I'll be happy to talk to you as well. First of all, I am not an expert. The reason I'm here to talk to you today about ebooks is I have experience, which is a euphemism for I've made a lot of mistakes. And I hope to be able to share some of the experiences I've had so that you don't have to repeat my mistakes and that you have a good experience in creating your own ebook. So right now we've all heard what Smashwords is, even if we didn't know what it was before we came today. And I like to describe it as Smashwords is for ebooks as YouTube is for videos. It's a website where you can upload your product, in this case an ebook, and people can go there and they can download it. And they also distribute your ebook to channels that we'll talk about, and then people can actually pay you for your product. So it's a publishing and distribution platform for independent publishers and authors. The primary reason we're promoting Smashwords isn't that it's necessarily better than other products available. It's because of their relationship with a company called Overdrive, and Shannon mentioned Overdrive. This is a company that this library district, along with about 25,000 other libraries around the world, we work with them to provide access to ebooks, e-audio, and e-video through our cyber shelf. So if you have a library card, you can download these materials. So what's exciting about this is Smashwords and Overdrive have partnered so that we can acquire your books if they're published by Smashwords. That's hard to say several times. And make them available to our local library card holders. Smashwords has about 2 million titles. Overdrive has about 2 million titles, and they represent about 5,000 publishers. So when you combine that with Smashwords' 250,000 premium catalog books, you really are providing readers a rich opportunity to discover a lot of things to read. The other cool thing about it is in Overdrive, once your book is ingested from Smashwords into Overdrive, your book is going to be discoverable right alongside the New York Times bestsellers. So that's really cool, I think. Now, Overdrive is just one of the many distribution channels that Smashwords works with. You can see some that are familiar, like Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks. You do not see Amazon on this list. Now, Smashwords does have a relationship with Amazon.com. However, they only distribute the top sellers from Smashwords on Amazon.com. And so for many of us, that probably isn't going to be an option. So as we mentioned earlier, it's quite all right for you to go ahead and set up an account with the Kindle Direct Publishing, which is Amazon.com. And it's much the same process. You're going to be uploading your book to their website. You're going to be creating all the information about your book. So once you've had experience with Smashwords, working with KDP, as it's called, will be a cake. You won't have any trouble with working with Amazon at all. So to get into Smashwords Premium Catalog is really important because that's the only way you can get exposure through their distribution channels. So it's a one-stop place, one place where you can actually reach out to a lot of distribution without having to set up accounts with all of these other distributors, which is really a primary feature of Smashwords. Now, getting into the premium catalog, It isn't easy. You really have to work hard to meet the technical standards. And that's why, as Shannon mentioned, there are only 250,000 of the millions of titles in Smashwords that actually are in the premium catalog. People didn't put in the effort to actually get into the premium catalog, so our goal today is to learn how to do that. And so I'm going to cover some of the steps in the process. We're going to cover a lot of material very quickly. You have some handouts to make it easier so you don't have to rapidly take a lot of notes. We're going to look at the Smashwords website, and you'll get familiar with that. So hopefully today you'll leave with enough information, you've seen enough, heard enough, that you can go home and feel more comfortable launching into your independent publishing project. So what do we need to get started? Well, first you need a Smashwords account. It's easy, it's free. You go to smashwords.com and you just click on the link Join for free. And it's basic information, email address, things like that, and you're set to go. Now, once you've signed up for your account, there are a few things that you want to do. You want to get familiar with the website. You want to kind of experience the customer experience. Download some ebooks. Now, there are thousands of ebooks that are for free, so you don't have to purchase books to understand how Smashwords works. And you really should download books and get used to the Smashwords process. Also download books that are similar to the book that you've written or writing. This allows you to evaluate books that are like yours. And essentially what you're going to try to do is accumulate some ideas, how you want your book to be presented. And so looking at other books similar to yours will make that more easily accomplished. What you're actually going to try to do is create what I call a style sheet or a cheat sheet. And this is just notes to yourself that you're going to keep, that you can refer to when you start formatting your book. And it includes things like what font you want to use and what kind of indentation for the paragraphs. And if you're using block quotes, how far those should come in. Very small details, the point size for the title and the subheads and things like that. So these are all things that you want to be consistent within your book. And this will help you to become more organized. And you can change these things. Now, one thing that you should be aware of, when people download your ebook and they read it on their computer or their smartphone or their other devices, it's going to look different on every single device because everybody who owns one has personal preferences. They may like something with very large type or very small type. And so you really don't have control of what your ebook looks like. But if you follow the technical standards, you're going to have a good-looking book, and no matter what device or computer it's going to be read with. So after we've evaluated some ebooks, you need to download the Smashwords Style Guide. This was written by Mark Coker. He's the founder of Smashwords. If you download it as a PDF, like I've done so I can use it on my computer, it's about 104 pages. Don't be intimidated by that, 104 pages with big type and lots of white space. But this really is the source for information for getting the best quality technical ebook into Smashwords. So do download that and peruse it, get very familiar with it. It's easy to locate. If you go to the Smashwords website, click on how to publish on Smashwords. That'll say publish if you've logged into your account. And then this is what it looks like. And this is something you're going to become very, very familiar with. So after you've downloaded the guide, it's going to give you instructions to follow as closely as possible. We've handed out a shortcut kind of tip sheet that helps you kind of get a lot of the work accomplished in a little less reading, but you still want to be able to refer to the style guide. What the objective is to get a .doc file, which is the version of Word 97 through 2003. If you own Word 97 through 2003, its default format is a .doc or doc. If you own Microsoft 2010 or 2013, or perhaps even a different word processor altogether, they're going to produce a different kind of file format that is not compatible with Smashwords. So when you save it, your final manuscripts, you're ready to prepare this for your Smashwords upload, you're going to go to Save As, and if you're using Word 2010, for example, you're going to say Save As Word 97-2000 document, and that's going to save it with a .doc extension. So that's really important. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to get your book publish ready. And that's where these instructions come in, the Smashwords basic formatting tips. There are 10 steps. These are kind of things that I've learned through uploading several books to Smashwords that helps you get to a pretty clean start for uploading a book. And I'm not going to go through all of these. We don't have enough time, but I'm going to go through a couple of these just so you can get familiar with the process. And what we're using is the find and replace process, and we'll talk about how that works in this process in just a second. We're going to take a look at a book that I started to upload called To Spare No Pains. And this was a file produced from Adobe InDesign. And so we output our print book using Adobe InDesign, and then we created a file, which is the one on the screen, which is basically the same file, but it's now going to be formatted for eBook. So there are a few things we need to do to it. A lot of times there are hidden characters, and if you click on the little character symbol, that's a little switch. It turns the hidden characters on and off. So it's sometimes helpful. First thing you do is to turn on the hidden characters, and that way you can start seeing some of the I won't call it garbage, but the formatting that we want to take away. You can see in this one there are lots of little symbols. Some of them mean tabs and hard line returns, and there are multiple spaces, maybe multiple use of a hard return. Those are things that we need to remove so that the Smashwords, it's called a meat grinder, will take your file and produce a file that looks correct. The other thing I'm going to do to give us a clean file, I told you this came from our printed book file. Well, we have a table of contents in the book, and so it lists the author of the chapter, the page number, and the title of the chapter. Well, in ebook formats, you don't have static page numbers. So page numbers are irrelevant. And so we're just going to totally remove this table of contents. Now, we're not going to cover it now, but in the style guide by Mark Coker, it shows you how to create a table of contents, which you should do if you have chapters, particularly if it's nonfiction. And it's basically a way of navigating the book. And I think that's an important feature, and it's something that you need to add. Something else we do not need in an ebook is an index. This also refers to static page numbers that will not exist. So I'm just going to zap that. The index is gone. So now we're ready to do a little doctoring of this document. You want to put your cursor at the very first part of the document, right in front of the first character. And up in the right-hand corner, there's a little button called Replace. So go ahead and click on Replace. And that brings up a dialog box. You can see it says Find What. Well, it's kind of fuzzy, but it does, trust me, say Find What. And then we're going to tell it to find 2 spaces. So I'm just going to hit the space bar 2 times. Then underneath that it says Replace With. And we're going to tell it, in this case, to replace it with 1 space. And then we're going to tell it replace all of these occurrences. So click the Replace All button. And it said that it completed its search of the document and has made 214 replacements. And then, okay, good. So we'll just click OK. Now we're going to go through this over and over and over again. We're going to just keep hitting Replace All and OK. And you can see right now we have 11, 3, 2, finally 0. It's found no more occurrences of double spaces. It's replaced them all with single spaces. Once you hit 0, you're done with that step and you move on to the next one. So the next step is we're going to replace the tabs. And for the second step, we're going to replace space tabs. And so we put in a space, and now tab is a special character. And you put in what's called a caret, it's a little upward arrow, and right in front of a lowercase t. So that tells Word you're looking for tabs. So you want it to find a space preceding a tab. and then we're going to tell it to replace it with nothing. So nothing is, you put the cursor in that replace with, and you backspace until everything's gone away. Now, these little character codes can, if you don't have the handout, let's say, for example, which does give you all of the codes that you need, right here on the bottom, there's a little pull down that says special, and that means special characters. And so this it tells you the tab character, for example, the paragraph mark. These are the characters, the manual line break, that we're going to be eliminating from our document. And so if you don't know what the code is, just put your cursor in the find what box, come down to special, and tell it, I want the tab character. Now we're going to just tell it to replace all the space tabs with nothing. We want all of those to go away, and it found 2,489 occurrences of those. That would have been a real mess had I uploaded this book to Smashwords. Tabs are probably the worst for formatting. It really disturbs it. So we're going to repeat this over and over and over again. We're not going to do that now. I think you've got the idea. So when you follow these 10 steps, you're going to eliminate all of these characters that interfere with getting a good, technically sound ebook. And once you've done that, then you can go back in and you can start adding your formatting. You can center the titles, you can bold, you can change the font sizes, you can do simple things like that. Things you don't want to do is introduce anything that you just removed. So don't use any tabs, don't use any multiple spaces, so only one space. And don't use manual line breaks, and don't use more than one hard return or paragraph return, unless you're wanting to differentiate between chapters. That's the only time I would use 2 hard returns. And so you can see it's going to give you a book that doesn't have a lot of formatting, which is exactly what we want. So now we've got a book that's ready to go. So now we're all excited. And we want to run over to the Smashwords website and upload it right away. But you're not ready yet. There's a lot more work that you need to prepare before you actually go to the Smashwords site to upload your book. And one of those is you need to write a very good title. Now you said, well, I've already got a title for my book. It's my working title, it's probably cool. Well, let me give you some examples of some classic books with their original titles that were perhaps rethought. So we're all familiar with this book, First Impressions. No, I'm sure you've heard of it as Pride and Prejudice, though. How about All's Well That Ends Well? That's kind of a trite expression, but War and Peace is probably how we would recall that book a little bit more clearly. Anybody have an idea of Trimalchio in West Egg? There we go, The Great Gatsby. The Last Man in Europe, 1984. Strangers from Within. Lord of the Flies. Tomorrow is Another Day. Ah, perfect. I knew somebody would get this one. That's good for you. Catch 11. I can't not imagine this book with any other title. Atticus. Excellent, excellent. So these and others were available on flavorwire.com. It's kind of fun to look at those. But it makes you wonder, okay, it started out with some titles that, well, they're okay. But how did they get to the titles that we all know so well now? One way may be through an editorial process. Somebody, a professional editor, kind of knows how to market books, came up with something a little bit a little more catchy. Another way might be test marketing. So as an independent publisher, you need to start thinking about behaving like a professional publisher and maybe doing some test marketing. And so test market not only your manuscript, have people look at it and give you feedback, but also have them respond to some titles, or perhaps suggest titles that after they've read your book. You want people to look at your covers. Everything that you create, you want to get feedback. And you can use family and friends to help you do this test marketing, but a few warnings. You do not want to surround yourself with people who just love everything you write and everything that you do, because they're not going to help you improve your work. You want to use people who perhaps really enjoy reading what you write, but who will give you very honest feedback. And you need to be very open to that. Don't become defensive at all, because you want to encourage them to continue to provide you honest feedback. Even if you don't agree with it, you want to show your appreciation for it. And that can be hard. Yeah. So test marketing, think about that. So now everybody knows that nobody judges a book by its cover, right? Well, the cover is really, really important. And what we need to do is prepare a cover before we can upload our Smashwords book. And it needs to be inviting, easy to read. The technical specifications is it needs to be 1,400 pixels across the horizontal dimension or larger. And it also has to be a JPEG or a PNG file. So I'm going to look at a couple of covers here. So here's one. Now, when your cover is on the Smashwords site or any other distribution channel site, usually you're going to first see it, or your readers are going to first see it as a little tiny thumbnail image, something maybe the size of a postage stamp. So your title needs to be legible when it's that big. And so that's really important. And then you want to use some imagery that kind of communicates what the book is about. And because people are processing this very, very quickly, and if they're looking through 3 million books, don't you think you want to have something that stands out? So what do you think this book might be about? I hear some giggling. Perhaps it's a romance. It is. It was a bestseller in the romance category. And I think perhaps this particular cover might have been professionally designed. It has kind of that look. One of the features of this title, which I think is just brilliant, is up in the right-hand corner it says Book 1. What does that tell you? Well, it's probably a series. So that's a really, really easy way to let people know you've got other books that they're going to want to read. It also communicates to them, if it is a series and they're new to reading your work, you want to make sure they start perhaps with the first book in the series. So putting that kind of information on the cover is really good. So here's another cover. This is really, really simple, but I think it's really, really effective. You have to have the author or the editor's name on the cover. So in this case, John Deacon is the author. The title, very concise, Full Throttle. And then the photograph is very simple. What does it convey to you? Does anybody have an idea? Pilot. Okay, excellent. There's a pilot sitting in an airplane. So what this book is probably going to be about, it's probably a biography of an aviator. And that's exactly what it is. So the cover really does communicate a lot. It does not have to be complex. It can be very simple. So you've created your excellent cover. Now you need to write something about yourself. Keep it really, really brief. And you can choose to write your biography in first person or third person. I've seen it done both ways. I tend to think that if you write it in third person, you can say nicer things about yourself. And so, or have somebody else write nice things about you. And so that's just something that I've observed. But do keep it brief and keep it so that it kind of helps readers know a little bit more about you, but kind of want to read more about what you've written. You'll also have to write a very brief description of your ebook. You're limited to 400 characters, not words, but characters. You have an opportunity to expand on that. You have 4,000 characters in a longer description. Oftentimes, this can include the table of contents or character information. You can use this to really engage a little bit further. You need to create tags and think about some categories that your book might be classified in, and we'll see what those are in just a moment. And then if you're going to be selling your book, you're going to have to determine how much you're going to charge, set a price for it. And if you're pursuing books for sale, then there's a business side of it, and there's income. You will probably need to provide a tax identification number to Smashwords or to Amazon. That would be your social security number or an employer's identification number, so be aware of that. When you set up your account, you don't have to do that right away. You can do that later on. But once you start making sales, they won't send you any money until you've provided them the required tax information that they need. If you are looking at this as a business, I'd recommend Terry Zarski's Mind Your Business classes. She repeats this class over and over again, so this would be something that I would definitely recommend. Terry's great. So now I'm going to kind of give you a real snapshot view of what uploading does. Now that we've got all of the parts together, we're going to take our .doc file. It complies with all of Mark Coker's instructions. You follow the basic tips, and we upload the .doc file and the cover to the meat grinder. And this is what Mark Coker calls it, a meat grinder, and it does its magic. And the meat grinder converts the .doc file to a number of eBook formats. Then it goes to the auto-vetter, and the auto-vetter identifies the issues that will disqualify that book from being considered for the premium catalog. Now, if you didn't do anything further, your book is published, you've done a great job, it's available on Smashwords, you can walk away. But it will not be available to any of the distribution channels. And that's our goal. We want to be on Barnes & Noble. If we're selling our book, we want to be in the library's collection online. So we really want to go to the extra effort. The other thing you want to do is, so the auto-vetter will give you a list of some of the problems that your file may have, and it always refers you back to the style guide on how to fix those. The other thing you're going to want to do is download some of the files that it converted and look at those, because it'll do some strange things sometimes. Sometimes you don't get the results that you're thinking you need. And so download an EPUB file, and there are a number of others. And if you don't have a device, that's okay. There's a software you can download, and it's on the resource list. It's called Calibre. It's something you load on your PC, your Mac. You can run it on Linux as well. And it allows you to view ebooks in a number of formats, and it does a really good job of displaying those. So this will give you a really accurate idea of what your consumers are going to see. And you'll see things that just look out of place. If you have illustrations, maybe they're all flush right and you really want them left or centered. So you're going to find things that you're going to want to change. So you make these changes to the .doc file. And you're going to take all of the auto-vetter issues and you're going to fix all of those. You're going to make the tweaks. Then you're going to upload this file again. And then you're going to do it again and again and again. Don't be surprised if this is your first time. You would probably do this half a dozen times. That's not unusual. Don't get frustrated. That's normal. You're learning how this is done. As you do more, you get better. Now I only do it 5 times. So what the meat grinder is doing is converting your .doc file to a number of formats that are compatible with a variety of e-readers. And the EPUB is pretty much the most common universal format, and that's probably the most important. Now, Smashwords does not use what's called digital rights management, DRM for short. And this is just a technology that controls how a consumer can use that file, whether or not they can use it on other devices or share that file. And it usually is intended to restrict access so that there isn't, in the view of the creator, misuse or uncompensated use. So be aware that Smashwords does not use any of the digital rights management, and that enables them to make them available to many people in a much more accessible way. Now, we're going to take a few seconds here, and we're going to take a look at the actual process. I want you to become familiar with what the website's going to look like, and so when you sit down at home, you're going to have a little bit of an idea of what you're looking at. So once you've logged into Smashwords, you're going to find a link to the dashboard. And so just click on the dashboard link, and that takes you to a page that has a lot of things I know you can't see. But there are a lot of links, and a lot of these have to do with reports or creating coupons so that you can send out coupon codes to people so they can get a discount on your ebook or download it for free, and lots of other things. And I really encourage you to just explore. You're not going to break anything. We're not going to have time to do much more than just go over the publishing part. So you click on the publish link, and this is the page you'll end up at, publish the book or your book. There are 3 do nots. Make sure you read the do nots. Probably the most important do not is if you've already uploaded your ebook to Smashwords, this isn't the place where you upload it again. So you need, there's another process. We'll see what that is. So if this is the first time you've uploaded your title, this is where you want to be. You want to put in your excellent, engaging title. And you also want to tell Smashwords when you want your book to be released. And this is, I think, fairly important. If you just tick the top button, which is the default, it will immediately become available on Smashwords. And when you click to go to the meat grinder, when it's done, your book, warts and all, is available for the public to download. And I found out that that's probably not what you really want. So they have something that allows you to set a release date into the future. And if you just click on this little calendar link, you can say, well, I want it to be a month from now or a week from now. Give yourself some time to revise the book and get exactly what you want before it's made available on the Smashwords website. And also give you time to do all the work that's required to make it qualify for the premium catalog. Now, they promote the release date, delayed release date, as a way of marketing your book and building anticipation. So you can do pre-orders. Once your book is in the premium catalog, you select Barnes & Noble as one of the distributors. They can put your book on the site and sell it before it's available, and then on the release date, everybody gets their orders filled. So you can use this in your marketing to create some hype. I'm looking at it from a standpoint of delaying, giving me enough time to get the book in good shape. If you have a long description, this is where it goes. And right now I don't have a long description to put in, so I'm going to skip that. You can always come back to this and make changes. And so I'm going to add a long description later. And then I do have to, it is required that I add the short description. And we remember that was 400 characters. So this is what I wrote. It's 118 words, so I figured, well, that's about 100. That's probably 400 characters. Well, down in Word on the left-hand corner, there's a little button. It's your word count. And if you click, it says words 118. If you click on that, it pulls up a dialog box. And this tells you a lot more about what's actually there. And you can see characters with white spaces is almost 800. So my little description isn't it so little after all. I'm going to have to cut that down. And I have to cut it down by more than half. Once you're below the 400 character threshold, you're good to go. Make sure you, if you can, use complete sentences. This is how you're selling your book as well. So cut and paste your short description of 400 characters or less into the Smashwords form. We tell the language of the book, and if we decide we're going to price the book, we need to enter a price. And once you put in a price, they have lots of little pie charts that show you how much of the money goes to Smashwords, affiliates, distributors, and then what your portion is. And then if you are publishing a book and charging for it, you can enable what's called sampling, which allows people to look at a part of your book before they buy. And you can set that to nothing, or it defaults to 20%. So people can look at the first 20% of your book. You want it to be the best 20% of your book. I'm just teasing, but you want it to be something that people look at and they say, yeah, this is something I want to continue reading. Now the categories, there are 5 broad categories. They're essay, fiction, nonfiction, play, and screenplay. And then you click on, okay, nonfiction, it's a nonfiction book, and then it gives you some more choices. And then, okay, history, this is a history book, and then you drill down about 4 or 5 levels. So this one is history, United States, 19th century. So that's a real broad description. They give you the opportunity to do the second category, and I would definitely recommend taking advantage of that. In this case, nonfiction, I boiled it down to biography, adventurers, explorers. And so what these are for is if somebody's browsing the website, they're looking for types of books, and so they're looking in these categories. And there are a lot of other books similar to yours grouped into these categories, presumably about the same sort of things you're writing about. Now, if there's adult content in your book, you should identify that. And then we'll need to create some tags. Now, tags, I think, are really important, and I think probably you need to spend a lot more time on these than you might think. So what the categories do is it helps people navigate to your book in a browsing scenario. Tags help people find your book in a search scenario where they type in, I want to find books about Pikes Peak. And so they type in Pikes Peak and they get all the books that have the words Pikes and Peak in it. So you need to give some thought into what words you might use. And you want to use words that aren't already used in your title and your description. So these are going to be words that might be similar. Maybe you're using plurals, things that are not exactly the same word. One way I would recommend to develop some tags is to go to ppld.worldcat.org. This is an international library catalog, and we're just going to type in Zebulon Pike. That's the subject of To Spare No Pains. And I'm just going to click on one of the books, and then if you scroll down to the very bottom, it gives you subject headings, and these subject headings are full of words, and these are the words that are going to help you develop tags. And so, as best I know, there are no limits to the number of tags until you get tired. But I would say at least do half a dozen tags. And also remember, you can go back and you can add more. So the 5th step is what ebook formats you want the meat grinder to create. I would suggest doing all of them. We're going to upload or tell it where to find our cover file on our PC and where to find our finished .doc file. You're going to read the terms of agreement like you always read the terms of agreement. And you're going to click, yes, I agree to those. And then right under number 9, where it says Special Collections PPLD, that's where you're going to tell Smashwords how you want the book attributed. So that would be your name. But if you set up your account, you can set up pen names. And so you may want to attribute a novel to a particular pen name. So it'll have all the names that you've created. And you just tell it which one you want associated with that book. And then you click on the Publish button. And then it takes a little time. It goes through the meat grinder. You can watch it, and there's probably several people in front of you. But really what you want to do is come back to the dashboard and wait, or come back to it after it's done. And you will see if there are problems, if there have a link that identifies all of the issues that need to be resolved. And it always refers you back to Mark Coker's style guide. And so you just go through it. And like I said, you might do this half a dozen times. You'll get very, very familiar with the software. Now the arrow here now is pointing to a link called Settings. I wanted to point that out because it's not necessarily real clear. If you want to go back and you want to add tags or add the long description or change the title and or the cover or anything like that, click on the Settings link, and that brings you back to those places where you can make revisions. Right below it is the Upload New Version. So when you get your .doc file pristine as you think it can be after you've followed all of the directions to make the revisions, then you're going to go to this link to upload your new .doc file, and it goes back through the meat grinder. Now we have very few minutes left, so I'm going to breeze through marketing, which is something I'm not an expert at anyway. Most of you probably, or many of you, I think already have websites. If you don't have a website, that's kind of a fundamental basic, and what we use is Weebly.com, and it's on your list of resources. One of the reasons I like it is it has a free version, so you don't have to invest any money until you decide, well, I need a little bit more than what it offers. And it's drag and drop, which means you don't have to know HTML. You just have to kind of have an idea of how to move things and where you want them, and have some idea of the aesthetic appeal that you want. And there are others. One thing I like about Weebly is it uses what's called responsive web design. And what that means is it takes your website, and if somebody's looking at it on a tablet or a smartphone, it automatically converts it so that it looks good. Isn't it really frustrating when you go to well, the library might be one of them, but a website where you start out on your smartphone, it looks great, and then you get to a link, and then all the type is just tiny, you can't read it. And so this avoids that using the responsive web design. Social media, the advice I've heard is if you like using social media, do it. I think for me, that's not something I would be real interested in, and so if I thought it were important to do marketing for my book, I would hire somebody to do it. There are people who actually will do your social media for you. The social media, it does integrate well with Smashwords, so it is something that works, and I would encourage you to do that if that's something you like. Email is kind of a standard. Do be aware that there are laws called canned spam laws. You don't want to spam people. Most of you probably have a list of emails of people who are interested in the work that you write. And what I would suggest is using some sort of a email manager. We use MailChimp. The reason is similar to Weebly, there's a free version. And what it does, it creates a list that people have to opt into. So if people are opting in to receive your email, then that's one of the criteria to make sure that you're complying with canned spam laws. Also, when you send out an email blast, there's a link at the bottom that allows people to opt out if they want to stop receiving these. So this takes care of all of that kind of legal stuff that you don't want to have to pay any attention to. So MailChimp, and also on your list of resources. Direct mail, postcards, mail, things received in the mail, they're still effective. The Direct Marketing Association says that the response rate for an email is typically 1/2%, and the response rate for direct mail is about 4%. So we're talking small numbers. So what I think is really important is use a lot of these over and over again, multiple contacts. And I think if somebody receives your message in various ways, it's going to stick after 3 or 4 times. Book reviews, Shannon mentioned there are sites that do book reviews. Some of them are for a fee. I think if you build a fan base that would be willing to review your books, I think that's ideal. You can encourage people to review your books, particularly in e-format through Smashwords, by sending them a coupon code that gives them access to download your ebook for free. And so you can kind of, here's my ebook, we appreciate your taking a look at it. If you could write a review, that would be great. And the review can be on the Smashwords site or on Goodreads. There are a number of other social media type review sites. Word of mouth, I think, is probably one of the most powerful marketing tools, getting people to talk about your book and encouraging their friends to look at your book. Here at the Library District, a lot of the people who send email, their signature line, at the bottom it says what they're reading. And I think that's kind of a cool way of communicating what people are interested in. And so maybe if you start doing that, other people will start doing that on your behalf. Mark Coker has written a marketing guide called the Smashwords Book Marketing Guide. It's great information for ebooks or printed books, and it's also free. If you go to the website, they have a FAQ, a lot of information. If you have questions, and you will, their FAQ gives you a lot of information on questions that everybody has asked. Now, if you go down to the bottom, there's a list, or a link to Mark's list. What Mark's list is a list of people who will format your ebooks or create your covers. They don't do it for free, there's a charge, but for a lot of people, they're really great at the writing part. This technical stuff just isn't what they want to do. And that's okay, because there are people who are very experienced at that, who can do it, and it's not a lot of money in many cases. So that is an option. So your homework is to set up a free Smashwords account, download and evaluate the ebooks, and learn about, many ebooks, and learn about what suits you for your ebook. Read the Smashwords guides, and upload your polished book file. We have time for 3 questions, and you got your hand up first.
I was just surprised when you were formatting, like taking out the spaces and all that stuff. You have to do it more than once?
The question is, you have to, when you remove some of the formatting, you have to do it more than once. What's happening, for example, I might have, in this particular case, I had a line of periods, or not periods, spaces. And so the reason you just keep going over and over and over again is it starts reducing them down to nothing.
Just take them all away once.
No, it doesn't. And so so that's why you want to make sure you keep the count going all the way down to 0. And you'll do that for all of them. Yes? So the question is, if you're going to design your own cover, where do you find the images, and how do you go about doing that? I would take a class. I think Shannon mentioned there is a class coming up here at the Library District on how to use, is it Photoshop? So you could also, there are other softwares available. Some of them you can download for free and use. Some of them are actually web-based. The Library 21C has some sophisticated software like Adobe InDesign. That's a very powerful software that is not for the faint of heart. If you're familiar with Adobe products, you probably will be fine. Basically, the way I would start is collecting pictures of covers that you like and emulate those. And what do you like about it? And then taking that information and then you could do a cover in Word. It doesn't have to be complicated and fancy. And as far as using the images, you want to be very careful not to just download images you find on websites, because those are copyrighted. That's their creative intellectual property. And so you can't, just because you can get it off the internet for free doesn't mean that you can use it for free. So do be careful about that. And there are sites where you can actually pay to purchase the rights to use. There are also sites that have royalty-free images so that you can download. The Weebly site that Shannon ran, there's a lot of pictures there. Those are all free with the site. So those are, Perry, and then I've got a question here.
If you're interested and you want to maintain certain paragraph chapters or sections, are those indicated by the size of the font? That at one point you have the style sheet with font sizes. So if you're eliminating all of the paragraph signs and all of the spaces, how can we be sure that the chapter starts?
Okay, so the question is, with removing all the formatting, how does one know that the chapter starts where the chapter starts? Is that a good summary? Okay. You don't. Is part of it. But if I mentioned the one time I used 2 hard returns as between the end of a chapter and the beginning of another, that's one way. And also, we talked about doing the table of contents. When you create a table of contents, you create basically bookmarks and links. And so that allows people to go to the table of contents, click on the chapter they want to read, and it jumps right to the beginning of that chapter. And so otherwise, it's just one continuous flow. And that's what it is. And there was one other question. You'll be the last.
What was the name of the program that you use on PC to let you look at different forms of books?
So the question was, what is the name of the program that you can download so that you can look at ebooks? It's called Calibre, and I won't spell it because I'll misspell it, but it is on the list of resources there that you should have 2 handouts. If you miss getting the handouts, there are copies over on the table. So because of the audio difficulties, we ran a little late. I'm not going to tell you I ran late too. So we're going to resume 10 minutes. I'll turn it back over to Brian.
Thank you very much, Tim.